Hello! We are Saffron and Dennis Backus, and we just bought a farm. These videos will be to document our progress towards greater self-sufficiency, and I hope you'll follow along on our journey here at Eudaimonia Farm. Hello! So, after last month's video, so many of you reached out on Instagram and had tons of questions all about the farm, so I thought it'd be fun to do a little Q&A video. So, get cozy, grab yourself a nice big mug of tea, because this might be a kind of long and chatty video. So, eudaimonia translates to a life well lived or human flourishing, and for us, that means always striving for self-improvement in all ways, mental, physical, spiritual, and we really feel like that just describes what we want to do here with our life on the farm. Our goals are of course practical. Like, we want to provide enough food for ourselves and create a new career for ourselves for after my spicy career ends. But we also want to pursue a lot of intellectual and physical health and wellness goals, as well as a deeper connection with nature. So, lots of different goals for why we want to move to the farm. I get this question a lot. Am I married? Or are we married? And yes, my husband Dennis is right behind the camera. Say hi.
Hello.
And yeah, we met in 2010 and we got married in 2012. And I couldn't imagine a better partner to do all these crazy adventures with. So my absolute favorite hobby is nature photography, but I also love to knit and sew on my antique treadle machine, and I love baking, of course, and gardening. Pretty much anything that's creative and with my hands. And I also really love to read books. And on that note, another question I get asked is if there are any books that inspired me, or any books that I recommend to anyone who wants to know more about homesteading. So I have quite a few suggestions. So the first book I know is a little cliche because everybody who likes homesteading mentions this book, of course, but for a good reason, because it's a classic. Walden by Thoreau. Of course. And then when I found out that he was living on Emerson's land, I decided to read Nature by Emerson. And it is such a beautiful book. It's kind of both poetry and not. And it just talks so much about how transformed you can be in nature. So I love that book. Then there's The Good Life by Helen and Scott Nearing, who are a couple of socialists who consider homesteading a political act. And I thought that was very inspiring. I have tons of notes all throughout the book. This one was a huge inspiration for me. So the next book is Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver. And it really opened my eyes to see how broken our food system is and how eating locally and seasonally and doing regenerative farming is really the way to go. Next is Pain Hollow by Harlan Hubbard. This was a very inspiring book because even though we have a lot more modern conveniences and amenities than they did, Their life of mixing art and providing for themselves in their homestead was what really inspired me. And the book really is just written in such a way that makes you feel the peace that he felt living off the land. So this next author, Jean Logsdon, actually has quite a few really good books, my favorite being The Mother of All Art, which is a book about how farming is not only the origin of most art, but also a creative endeavor in itself. But for somebody who wants to get to know more about homesteading, I suggest Homesteading: How to Find New Independence on the Land, which is more of one of his instructional books. Next is Helen Hoover. Her books are like reading a journal of somebody who is living the most magical life homesteading. And my favorite is The Gift of the Deer, which talks about how a deer came and visited them on Christmas Day and he was injured, and they basically nursed him back to health by feeding him and watching over him. And over the course of a few years, they see him grow up and have a family of his own, and it's just a beautiful story, and it's really well written. So I love these books. This next book is Walden 2 by B.F. Skinner, and it's not actually the second Walden book, but it was inspired by that, where the author, in a fictional tale, imagines a utopic intentional community and goes into such great detail of how the community is run that a lot of intentional communities that actually exist today use this as their founding book. So currently, I'm almost done this book. I am right around here, and the book actually ends here because all of this is footnotes. But this book is called At Home in Nature by Rebecca Neal Gould, and it's a really good book kind of summarizing and dissecting all of the different ways different homesteaders have taken their journeys. And I recommend it to anyone because you'll find out a lot more authors that you'll have to check out afterwards. So if you're not sure if living in nature is for you or worth it, then I definitely suggest reading The Nature Fix by Florence Williams, because it really goes into the science of how and why our environments affect us, whether for good or bad, in both our physical and our mental health. But yeah, it's a really good book, and I think it'll inspire you to get outside just a little bit more. So we saved up for years, and we never travel or buy fancy things, and we actually haven't eaten anything from a restaurant, not sit down or takeout, in years, because one year we looked at our expenses and we saw we had spent $7,000 on junk food, takeout, and restaurants. And we were like, oh my goodness, that is so much money. So we cut that out and we started meal prepping all of our food. And yeah, we stopped buying so much stuff online and started buying more things at thrift stores or on places like Kijiji, which is basically like Craigslist. Yeah, so we just saved up a whole bunch. So for years, we were just waking up every morning and refreshing all the real estate listing pages, looking for something that fit our criteria. We knew we wanted at least 11 acres, 10 of which being just forest, so that we could grow all of our own food as well as cut all of our wood for heating. But for so long, everything was out of our price range, or didn't have internet, or there was some other major deal breaker. And it wasn't until the beginning of 2021 when we saw this place, and we went and came to a visit, and we just knew immediately that it was going to be ours. So yeah, actually our offer was rejected 3 times, not for the price, but actually because the previous owners kept wanting more time to pack all of their stuff up and get out. So we kept having to put in a new offer that gave them an extra month here, an extra month there, time to pack all their stuff. And finally it was accepted, and we signed it in May, which was 2 months after we had first seen the place. And then we got all of our inspections done in the summer. And then finally, at the end of September, we closed and got the keys. And yeah, it's been amazing ever since. It was a really long, almost whole year of anticipation and waiting and frustration, but it was well worth it considering how good of a deal we got on the place. So I don't know if it's better in every scenario, but at least for us, it is definitely cheaper to buy an old farm and fix it up rather than buy one that's already fixed up, even including the renovations, because we're doing a lot of the work ourselves. Pretty much everything that's not too dangerous and structural, we're doing ourselves. Like, we're doing all the painting, we're finding all of the light fixtures ourselves from Kijiji, and yeah, we're doing a lot of the work ourselves, which makes it a lot cheaper. So in the end, it's definitely, for us at least, cheaper than buying a house that is already fixed up and has the same amount of land. Also, since this is agricultural land and we do plan on having a farm business, the renovations are actually tax deductible, which is very much a reason why we want to get our farm business started as soon as we can, because that will help, as well as keeping our property taxes low, because if we lose our agricultural zoning, then the property taxes will get to be quite expensive. So we have to get started selling some stuff ASAP. So I don't believe in just having one life's passion. I like making spicy videos, of course, but I also want to grow all of our own food, and I also want to learn how to spin wool, and I also want to learn how to take care of animals, and basically I want to try everything. So that's why I love homesteading so much. I guess that's my life's passion, because it allows me to do pretty much everything. So there might be a saffron cookbook one day, I'm not sure when, but I really enjoyed doing my Cooking with Saffron series. So it would be really exciting to do a cookbook filled with farm, fresh, from scratch, healthy foods. So maybe one day. As a side note, I get this question a lot. I'm not vegan, but I do only eat meat from local, sustainable, ethical farms, and we hope to grow all of our own meat ourselves, and give the animals such a wonderful life so that they only ever have one bad day. I really believe in regenerative agriculture, which includes animals in the system and helps everything else thrive. I don't miss city life at all. It's so much quieter here. I see so many animals, and honestly, I could never go back. What I love most about the farm is that it's not just a house, but also a whole new way of living and a new way of seeing the world. It's a healthy lifestyle and a spiritual path all in one. So there are quite a few renovations we have to do because they're structural and dangerous. But the one renovation we want to do is the kitchen. The current countertops are laminate, and they were done a long time ago by a previous owner, and now they are all cracking and chipping and just awful. So we're saving money everywhere else by doing all the painting ourselves, all the fixtures, all the finishing, everything like that. and we're splurging in one little area, which is the countertops. I love soapstone countertops. I really, really want some soapstone countertops. Not only does it fit with the house, because that would be one of the common materials used when this house was first built in the mid-1800s, but they're also a really durable and long-lasting and easy maintenance, nice countertop, and we spend so much time in the kitchen cooking that I feel like it's just worth it to splurge in that one area. We also found a Quebec producer, or I suppose a mine, of Quebec soapstone. So we'll be using that and keeping it with the theme of the place of having all local materials, or as much as possible. So for the house and barn renovations, we hope to have all of that done by the end of summer, but for the actual farm plan, like the farm businesses, we plan on having our cash crops be apple products from our apple orchard and yarn from some sheep. We'd also like to build a really big garden to produce all of our own vegetables, as well as herbs to put into soaps and salves to sell. Eventually, we'd also like to transform the apple orchard into a food forest, which takes a few years after starting it to really mature. And of course, we'd like to get chickens and sheep and grow all of their food here on the farm. So we think maybe after 5 years we'll be considered done setting up. But of course, we're going to start selling what we can right away, starting this summer, as well as continuing our spicy content and making more YouTube videos and doing other side projects like nature photography and turning our nature photos into puzzles. So the art studio is where we think that the farm will pay for itself, because we know that there's a good market for hand-spun, organic, naturally dyed wool and yarn. So we're going to be putting my spinning wheel, as well as dyeing equipment and everything else we need to turn dirty wool straight from the sheep into valuable, beautiful yarn. So I absolutely think that this will be our forever home, because not only is it a wonderful house to live in forever, but it's actually going to be our way of making a living once my spicy career ends, because I know that after just turning 30 that I can't make a living like that forever, so it'll be both our place to live as well as our career. So other than painting everything and light fixtures and stuff like that, the next big DIY project will actually be to build some benches right behind me on either side of the fireplace. And not only will they be benches, but the way we want to build them, they'll have some storage for some wood, as well as some blankets and a bookshelf. So I'm very excited about that. As far as aesthetics go, we just want to keep what would go well with what the house already has. So matching the natural wood and the earth tones. We don't want to modernize so much that it loses its history, but we also definitely do want to modernize anything that's really inefficient. So this fireplace is actually a really good example, because the original installation from the 70s was extremely inefficient and also very polluting. So this new one we put in is awesome. It actually heats the room unlike the other one, and it is way less polluting, and so it's way more efficient, and it also, we feel, matches the character of the old hearth without being too modern, but it's way better than the old one. So there's little things like that around the house that we'd like to change, keeping within the style of the character of the house. So definitely foxes. I'm really not sure. Fox. So definitely foxes are our favorite animals that we've seen. We have plenty of deer and turkeys, which we love too. But until we lived here, I'd never seen a fox in real life, ever. And now we've seen at least one a few times. So that's very exciting, and they're definitely my favorite. So the weirdest things we've found in the house. Okay, there are plenty. There are some creative and interesting building methods that previous owners have used, both in the house and in the barn, that some of our contractors have laughed at. So there's that, but there are also some very weird objects that we have found. The first being a bullet, or a bullet casing. Is it a bullet casing or a bullet? It's a casing. Mm-hmm. A bullet casing in our barn. Not sure where it's from. And then the next being an extremely strange vintage child's toy stroller. Now the story of that is a little creepy. I'm not sure where it came from. No one knows where it came from. Just one day, after they were excavating around the foundation of the house, because there was a huge crack and it was leaking in the basement, and so they had to dig in a little bit and put some membrane or something to stop the leak. Doesn't matter. Anyway, after the workers had left, all of a sudden there was this little stroller by our front door. I have no idea where it came from. We think it might have come from under the porch, but it doesn't seem like it, and no one knows where it's from. It's very unexplainable, kind of creepy, but also really beautiful, so I'm keeping it, and I'm not sure what I'm going to upcycle it into, but yeah, stay tuned for a creepy stroller DIY upcycle. The stroller was actually in perfect condition, like brand new, mint condition, which is even stranger because we looked it up and you can't buy these anywhere. These are not new, like they're very old and very vintage, and considering the fact that it might have been under our porch for an indeterminate amount of time, it's extremely strange that there's not even a scratch on it. So yeah, a little strange, but very interesting, I think. So the last question is kind of a silly question, but also kind of a practical one. So in a bear attack, what is my weapon of choice? So if you look online, you'll find out that the actual best weapon to use to fend off a bear attack is bear spray. Using a gun is more likely to anger the bear, not stop them. So I always carry bear spray, of course. But the second weapon of choice, which I always have on me whenever I'm in the forest and hiking around, is this knife. So I love it. It actually comes in handy quite often. There's nice serration, so it's kind of a saw and a knife. And yeah, I love it. And I have this one and some K-bars. And basically, if you're gonna be in the forest, you should have a knife at all times. That's just my suggestion, and yeah. So that's all the questions I have for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see your question answered in a future Q&A video, definitely send me a message on Instagram. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.